Hello, my name is Longson. You may have seen some of the videos where I'm talking about music, but today I'm going to start a new video series, whatever, YouTube thing. I've been toying with this idea for quite a while now, and the idea is hashtag minute mockups, as you've seen is the title of the video. But basically I wanted to just flex a bit orchestrationally I should say, because I love orchestration, I love orchestrating things, and I love using a big orchestra, but you never really get a chance to use a big orchestra as a composer, so I just thought it'd be fun to pretend that I was a film composer for a little while. And so the idea is that I'm going to do some pieces that are a minute long, and they're a mock-up, as it were, in Sibelius, and I'm also using Note Performer, which is a really great, my teacher always told me to do this. If you can see if my screen capture is working, there's some things that you should theoretically do whenever you're using Note Performer, so you should have it on Mechanico, apparently. Don't use Espressivo 2, don't need any emphasis on meter from the percussion. But yeah, so if you look at the configuration, I'm using Note Performer, so it's going to sound fairly good. Actually, Note Performer is really good at most of the playback, especially for the orchestra, less so for sort of pop instruments or synths or anything. Now, the orchestra I'm working with is the classic triple woodwind, except with one addendum. So first, let's talk through it, shall we? So in triple woodwind, what that usually means is 3 flutes, 3 clarinets, 3 bassoons. Oh my goodness, I've forgotten oboes. And 3 oboes. So 3 bassoons, 3 clarinets, 3 oboes, 3 flutes. Anyway, so yeah, I've done the normal woodwinds, except I've got 3 saxophones in here, which I think are actually a very important part of the orchestra that aren't utilised even nearly enough. So they are the soprano saxophone, the alto saxophone, tenor saxophone. I just think that having 3 saxes in there allows you an extra bit of colour palette, which some orchestras don't. And if I was a big Hollywood film composer and I had unlimited budget to create the orchestra that I want to create, I'd put 3 saxes in there. You know, you see people using 8 French horns, 10 French horns or whatever, or people using the contrabass, trombone, things like that. Well, I want 3 saxes. So next up we've got the classic brass. We've got 4 horns, we've got 3 trumpets, 3 trombones and a tuba. And now the trumpets I've put in C because I've been told that is a much more standard way to do it now, and let them choose if they want to use a C trumpet, a B flat trumpet, whatever they feel more comfortable on. If there's high passages, they'll bring out the C trumpet. If there's lower jazzier stuff, they'll bring out B flat, whatever. Also, what I didn't mention with the winds is that I've got flute 1 and 2, and then 2 is doubling alto flute. Then clarinets 1 and 2, and the second clarinet is doubling E flat clarinet, just in case I want to add those extra colours in there. In fact, out of all those woodwinds, my favourite is always the third one. So I love the piccolo, I love the cor anglais, I love the bass clarinet, and I love the contrabassoon. I think they work really well together. So yeah, there's the brass, and then percussion, I've got timpani and then 3 percussion. The 3 percussion will do everything. I'm not, they can figure it out amongst themselves. I've got 1 harp, piano is just a classic instrument that I like using a lot, and then classic strings, just violin 1, violin 2, viola, cello and contrabass. So a mock-up, by the way, I should just add, a mock-up is what you would send to the director. So if you had scored a scene, but you hadn't recorded it yet, but you wanted to show what was happening, what it sounds like, give the director a good idea of what you're doing or what the sounds will be for their film. You create a mock-up using MIDI. So this is Note Performer. Some people use Logic, and they use things like Spitfire strings. Albion 1, I've got that, it's very good. Anyway, so this first track is Home, and you'll see there it says number 1, The Ordinary World. I'm going to start off with Joseph Campbell's Monomyth, also known as The Hero's Journey. Now, according to Joseph Campbell, the hero goes on 10 steps in their journey, and I thought, that's perfect, there's 10 different tracks that I could do, as though we were going through a film, 10 just different mock-ups. So, number 1 is The Ordinary World. Then you've got The Call to Adventure, Crossing the First Threshold, Trials, Friends and Foes, Magical Mentor, Dragon's Lair, Moment of Despair, Ultimate Treasure, Homeward Bound, and then Rebirth and the Champion's Return, which is Rebirth and the Champion's Return is all number 10. So let's start with Home, which is number 1. That's the first one. So I've written some notes here. Winds, I think winds are a good thing to have here. And then Ionian / Mixolydian. Ionian and Mixolydian are 2 modes, musical modes. Ionian is the major scale that we know it as, and then also Mixolydian is the major scale but with a flat 7. And Mixolydian is basically when you start on the 5th So if you imagine, if we were in C Mixolydian, that's if we were in the key of F major. So it's got a flat 7th, it's got a B flat. So there's different ways to think about it. I prefer thinking about it as in, you know, it's got a flat 7 as opposed to it's in the key of F. I think there's too many steps there. So they're very safe, very majory sounding keys. And so I'm going to see what I can come up with. I might just do a bit, see if I can come up with a couple of little melodies, a couple of motives. But also orchestration wise, I don't want to blow my load too quickly and basically have horns, trumpets, trombones, you know, all the winds playing. Because actually, I look at it like a colour wheel. So if you're a painter, you're not going to use every single colour straight away. You're going to shade, you're going to add light and dark. And so for me, the orchestra isn't there to be bombastic and loud and grandeur. You know, it's not Wagner, you know. Probably shouldn't say that, a lot of people like Wagner. He didn't like Jews though. So, should have eaten. Basically, for me, orchestration is about finding the right colours. It's about having an expanded colour range so that you can pick out the exact ones you want. It's about finding the most intricate way you can express an idea. So I think, to be honest, I think we can start off with something like, I think the flute is a good thing. I've put winds, you know, so I'm going to try and write like a little melody. What key am I going to put in? That's another thing. I like to write without a key signature, just so it makes me think more about what key I'm actually putting it in. And I like to also make notes. I've got a little notepad here. So far it is that. Yeah, so that'll be what I express my ideas on. So I wonder. So I'm gonna I've written a little bit. I've written a sort of little motif to begin with. Let's see how that sounds. Okay, so I'm gonna slow down the tempo a little bit. I've chosen 4/4 for the meter. I just feel like that's a good thing. I remember listening to Score the Podcast, which is a great podcast. You should all check it out. There's some amazing interviews on there. One of the great things was they had these segments where a professor would talk about, you know, the psychology of music. And one of the things was saying about how, you know, a triplet meter, or, you know, 2/2 or 4/4, they work on the premise of footsteps or heartbeats, things that come in 2. It's regular, it's safe. Whereas things with triplet meters, so 3/4, 6/4, 3/8, 6/8, 12/8, although 12/8 is more of a 4. That's a bit of a weird one. They're irregular, so they, you know, that's why, you know, the Imperial March is in 6 as opposed to 2 as a march, because it throws you off. It doesn't feel safe. It feels like, you know, you have to add an extra step for every step that you take. And so I think with home, I think it's nice to stay safe with 4/4, keep it simple, keep it metered, so that you don't feel like we're going anywhere. It feels like we're staying somewhere. I think I want to languish in this sort of moment of this. I'm thinking in my head of like an elvish sort of creature in his forest that's, you know, it's safe, it's undisturbed, you know, maybe they're a protector of the forest, or maybe it's a young person who is in a village somewhere. They know of magic but they haven't seen it yet. So let's see what we can do. So I think we need a slower meter. So I'm going to put it down to 60, let's start off with. I'm going to start that off at a P, but I'm going to, first of all, actually, I'm going to give myself a little bit of room to grow. So I'm going to open with So I'm kind of in a weird key. I'm in G Mixolydian, I guess, actually, because I've got an F natural as opposed to an F sharp. I haven't expressed an E flat yet, so it could be Mixolydian, it could be Dorian. We'll see. I like this. Oh wait, no, I've got a flat third. Okay, I'm not in G Mixolydian. It could be Aeolian, could be Dorian. So yeah, this is G Dorian. But I also kind of like the idea that maybe we're heading back to C. So maybe if the opening chord, maybe if it was this C chord like this C5. Okay. See, I love it when that happens, when you stumble across a sound or stumble across like an idea. I really dig that. I really love the idea that you've somehow been just working and then all of a sudden you've done a shift somewhere just for some other reason, and now you're thinking to yourself, oh god, that's it, that's the sound. I want to see though if I can add a little bit of motion at the start here. So I wonder if I can, maybe if I do this, see how that sounds. So what I've done there is I've marcated that these first 2 bars will be played on clarinet 1 and the second 2 bars clarinet 2. So it means that you've got the first guy can do 2 bars of the pattern, and then the second guy can do the second bar. So it means there won't be any break in the pattern. It'll just be a continuous no. Right, okay, let's see where we can take this. I feel like with this opening, now, you may notice that since the last cut, this is very different here, this sort of clarinet figure. And what I've done is got rid of that. I didn't think it didn't sound quite right. I think if I'd have put it on the strings, it would have sounded really good, but I really want to do this opening with winds. And I've written about 30 seconds of music so far, all on the winds. I have actually, I say that, I've added a little timpani hit at the start, along with the harp fifth there, like that. And I want to do that at maybe like just piano. So we have this. Okay, so what I've done now, so basically I've decided that it's in C Mixolydian, but I'm toying with the idea of it being sort of G minor as well, so G, or I should say G minor, I should actually say G Dorian. So I'm opening with this sort of fifth thing here with the contrabass and the bassoon. Now this works really well, it's very strong. Yeah, I'm going to put that on bassoon too, and basically what I've done is I sort of ran with the fifth idea. I quite like using fifths, I think it's a really nice sound, and so I gave the fifth above the G, so it's a C in the contrabass bassoon, a G, and you'll see that even though that C looks like it's higher than this G, because it's a contrabassoon, much like the contrabass, it's actually written an octave lower. The contrabassoon, actually, fun fact, is the lowest instrument in the orchestra, theoretically, apart from the piano maybe, but the contrabassoon can get all the way to the B flats, there, super low. I've gone with the fifths, and I gave the fifth above to the bass clarinet, which is a D, I gave a fifth above that, the A to the tenor saxophone, and then the E above that to the second clarinet. Now, this rhythm I've sort of come up with, I wanted to sort of create this sort of like pulsing kind of idea, but without making it too ostinato-y, and I think this sounds a bit, I don't know, maybe a bit Steve Reich-y, I don't know, which I'm wanting to do. I'm not much of a minimalist, I don't love minimalism, but I think sometimes it helps just to create that extra little bit of texture. So we have this sort of pulsing do, and then I thought a triplet might add that extra little bit of forward momentum without I was having to actually go anywhere harmonically. So it's just outlining this C chord, but it's a C chord, but it's also got an A and a D in it, so it's basically like a C69, which is one of the sexiest chords. It's a really lush chord, it's a really nice jazzy sort of chord. I've put a forte marking there because actually in a real context, if you actually had the orchestra in front of you, having the 5 instruments that you have playing pianissimo to piano and then to mezzo piano at their loudest, and that forte, there's a lot of things to be said about forte as a dynamic marking. A lot of people say that's loud, but actually it kind of means strong. It simply means make it present almost. And so in this context, I've written it in a sort of very comfortable register for the flute, and I've written it forte just because I want them to be present over the top of these other things. I want that to be the focal point. I think they're also going to be very aware of what else is happening. They're going to be able to hear how quiet the rest of the winds sound and act accordingly. And this sort of goes down towards these registers. This starts within the register and then just builds up to the top of that register. Now I've kept these chords going, and I've added in an alto saxophone and a cor anglais just doing the rhythm as well. And the rhythm, so now it's sort of this, you've got some people going do 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 do, but then you've also got people going da 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 da, and I think it really adds this sort of like rumbling kind of effect. And I've moved the contrabassoon and bassoon up to G and D, and it's kind of like I've got a C major chord over G and a D. But then on the alto saxophone and the cor anglais, I've got them playing the G and the D as well. But then you've got the E, of course, and the bass clarinet. But then you've got an A as well. So this chord's a bit messy, I won't lie to you. There's no C present, so it's kind of like an E minor 7, 11, but then with the... Oh yeah, it's just a mess of a chord. But then of course it all leads down to the fact that this chord, this 2/4 bar that I've added here, this is very much a G minor chord. And then we head back to the C, which gives us a nice sort of major resolution. But this chord is very, very messy. But I like that. Moving onwards, I've then reorchestrated this bit to have piccolo, because I think actually we've had the flute, and I think the piccolo sound after the flute works really well. But having a P marking, and then maybe up to mezzo forte. So, and I've gone to flute 1 and 2, playing that along with the alto saxophone. I feel like that's a really lovely triplet pairing, trio. Sorry. I really like that sound. You don't want to just have the theme presented straight away. We're going to add things to it. Now, I've got this, I really like this B flat to the G above. I really like that sort of minor 6. So this is where I'm going to build to bringing the strings in. So that minor 6th leap. So I'm going to give it to a few players and I'm going to introduce the strings. Okay, now how am I going to develop this theme? So it's been a little while. I've done a bit of work. I've clocked it in. If we look now, with that extra bar there, it's 1 minute and 4 seconds. So if we just delete that bar, bang on 1 minute. Oh yeah! It's probably what I get for writing, getting BPM 60 to be fair. But I think there's something to be said about there being an ebb and a flow to music, because I think with this one, especially when it comes to the bum 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 yum bum 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 bum, I feel like with them you could sort of edge it forward a bit, but then when we get to this section I'm about to show you, you could certainly pull it back and, you know, luxuriate in the harmonies. So I've done this build here, so this is what I've got so far in this sort of build up. So that's what I've got there, and then I knew that I wanted this sort of B flat to G, and I thought, okay, let's make this transition into G major, so that instead of it being like, are we in C, are we in G, it's like, no, we're in G major right now. I think actually this F that I'll play for you right now sounds vaguely Aaron Copland-esque. I don't know, it just sounds a bit like, you know, Appalachian / Billy the Kiddie. I've got the trumpet, of course, bringing in that melody as well. My idea is that this is going to be sort of a false spring here. So, you know, you'll have had this sort of mini build and then we have the big melody here. But then actually I've got this transition where I'm going to hit B major instead, but a full B major, so including A sharp and everything. So this is when we have finally hit an actual not a mode, it's just the key, and I think that's going to be B major, and it's almost going to be like that's the proper, like, he's, our main character, he, they, she are looking over the forest or over the valley, and they feel a warmth in their heart. I think what's cool about this is that I've gone through C Mixolydian and then G Mixolydian until eventually we get to B major, which is just like so unrelated. But the reason how I got there is because I used this system. That D, I've used kind of like the B flat to G, so I wanted that minor sixth relationship to get to a new chord, and I just happened to hit upon a D in that phrase, and then I thought, okay, perfect, that's our soaring off point into B major. So I quite like using intervallic material as building blocks. I think that's really important, as opposed to just keys or modes. I think it's quite nice to actually have intervals that you like using, which is why this end melody, I've got those intervals again, and then this, which we had a little bit earlier, I think on the soprano sax, that's right. And then of course I've got it again, and what I did was here to get us back up to a B, and then I want the last chord to be a big old B major. And also you'll notice that this is that, so that is the B to C sharp to F sharp, so that's upper tone and then upper fourth, whereas with this we've gone upper semitone and then upper fifth, which isn't the same. So I wonder what would happen if I was to actually start with the D sharp, so actually let's make that an E flat, F. Ooh, I wonder, that sounds kind of cool actually. I kind of like that, because then you could do like a G major chord, but with that minor third up above it. Maybe let's make it a ninth. I think I've cracked it. I think it might be finished, which is pretty crazy. It's pretty great when you feel like you've accomplished something, especially for a composition, because sometimes it really is like pulling blood from a stone. So let's see what we're working with. This is going to probably make it difficult for you all to see, but that's, it's funny because I've been working on it a long time, but it's really not that long. It's a minute long. Well, actually, if you have a look at the time counts there, it's actually 1 minute and 3 seconds. Give me those 3 seconds, everybody. It's weird seeing it like this and seeing how actually quite short it is spatially. Anyway, let's listen. Say that there's just a couple of things I just noticed upon that playback that I think actually could do with being remedied. Just to say with horns, for those of you that might be confused at the layout I've got with the horns, typically the horns work like this. You have horn 1, 2 on the same stave, and then 3 and 4 on the second stave. And the reason for that is that horn 1 and horn 3 both play high, or they specialise in high notes. Horn 2 and 4 specialise in low notes. So the way they space that is that horn 1 is always atop the chord, horn 3 second atop the chord, horn 2 third atop the chord, and then horn 4 at the bottom of the chord. That's just convention. Another convention as well is that I haven't written this as in a key, I've written it as atonal, as they put it in Spalius, so there's no key signature. But a horn should never ever have a key signature. Unsure why that is, but it's just a thing. I also noticed that the string writing is really thin here. So let's have a look. Oh, also let's get rid of that. That's very naughty. So I've basically given the cellos this sort of line. The cellos and basses this sort of toying with the 9th. Okay, I want them to do the same thing here, I think. Let's see how that sounds, I guess. And also maybe, I mean, it's quite thin in general, this. Let's see what that sounds like. But I think maybe I might add a bit of movement. Maybe this figure, but on the middle strings. Yeah, okay. I think that's probably quite a good idea. Let's try listening to that. Then what chord is this? Ah, yes. So B sharp. It's going to be a weird leap, but it's fine. I'm okay with that. I feel like a harmony might really work there. Ooh, let's try some thirds. Nice. I'm also going to put just over this div, which means divisi. I've not given the harp a lot to do, but to be honest, I actually struggle writing for the harp. It's quite a hard instrument to write for, in my opinion. But I'm going to give it some more stuff to do at the beginning. Specifically, I'm going to give that and the timpani some more stuff to do at the beginning. I just feel like this opening, it really lends itself to that sort of thud. Okay, you know what, I'm going to juice this puppy a little bit. I'm going to give this a G and a D here, like that. And then maybe just a lone trombone, maybe, or lone bass trombone, just doing a G. Maybe add some dynamics in like this. Let's see what that all sounds like. Okay, I like it, although I might just add a cheeky horn line here, maybe on an E. Why am I hearing? I'm hearing an E in my head. And then I'm going to do this. Okay, so I think we've got the final product here, I think. So I've added in a lot of sort of movement here, outlining the chords in the oboes, the cornglay, the clarinet, bass clarinet, and then I've also passed it off then to the bassoons when they come back in. I've also done this sort of weird sort of counter melody to the fourth on the two saxes here. I've filled out this final chord. I've added in a piano right hand, doing stuff with the Glock, which is mirroring what the oboe / bassoons are doing. Kind of an epic sort of thing. I've filled out that bottom half. Okay, right, here we go. So let's play from the start, see how it sounds. Here we are. that's fairly good for a day's work. There's some things that I like about it. I think the motivic content's pretty good, pretty strong, and I think that would be a really great theme that I could extrapolate and play around with later on. You know, I could make that into a sad theme, I could make it into a triumphant theme, I could probably make it into an evil theme if I had to. Let's say our protagonist turned evil, I don't know. The feeling of home, the ordinary world, I think maybe it's a little bit too magical for that, although I've not added any Lydian yet. In fairness, it's very Mixolydian, a lot of ninths, a lot of major sevens. The idea I think here is that it's unsettled, because we've started in C Mixolydian going into G, and then G Mixolydian, and then all of a sudden we're in B major. So even though this is home and it's all the same motive, the same melody, I like the idea that it's a bit unsettled. Where are we putting our foot? Is it C? Is it G? Is it B? It doesn't quite feel triumphant. It's starting to feel triumphant, and I don't want it to feel triumphant because this is meant to be us at home. Yeah, so anyway, that was our first minute mock-up. Home, which is the ordinary world of Joseph Campbell's hero's journey. I hope you like it. If you've got any more ideas for what I could do for minute mock-ups, just comment saying a title. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed it. Please comment and subscribe. Please do subscribe and tick the bell as well. It really does help. I look forward to making some more videos for you. Thank you to Sam for editing these videos for me. Sam G. Go like him at Sam G Designs. He's an excellent graphic designer, visual designer, editor, filmographer, videographer, whatever you want to call him. Anyway, thank you. Goodbye.